All right.
What do you all know about your internal self-image? What do you know about hardening your spirit? What do you know about forging your spirit? I don't know too many people talk about this type of stuff, but there's this idea. It's not really all my idea. A lot of people see it in things like Japanese philosophies, like it almost comes out in like things like anime, things like that. But there's this idea that of a warrior spirit, right? You have a person, you have a man, hero's journey. You start out, you're kind of a goofball, a loser, or whatever, and then you move on, and you want to become something. You become what you idealize as. You want to become a hero, right? Well, you have to go down the hero's journey, and I think this stuff is real. But it doesn't, have to happen literally. Like fight a dragon, beat a supervillain, blah blah blah. That stuff's not really so much real. But there's this idea that through hardship, you actually become something different. And the whole point of the hero's journey isn't actually about defeating the villain. It's about changing who you are, your soul. Because when you face an obstacle or a challenge, like a real one, you have to do whatever it takes to overcome the challenge. And in doing so, this changes who you are. It changes your habits, changes your actions, it changes your routines, all these things you do so you can do the necessary things required to overcome the challenge, slaying the dragon, right? Um, a lot of people talk about this stuff. I think Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot, but I mean, this stuff has been around longer than him. I've known about it a lot longer. And what I knew from a very young age, so um, maybe it was from pop culture that I got the idea, but when I was young, I knew that I wanted to become the fullest potential of who I could be. I wanted to ascend to the top of the mountain, whatever. And I wanted to, be the best that I could be. So, how I went about this is that I started out doing the things that the top people in the world were doing. I wanted to be like them, emulating. And along the way, when you start doing that after a while, you realize that you may not want to be like those people entirely, but also you learn lessons along the way as you start climbing, and they shape you, they form you, right? So, if you can understand these ideas, you can start to understand when you're forced to deal with reality more and more and more, real things, real challenges, non negotiables, you have to understand them. You have to understand their nature, their being, how they operate, work. It tunes your vision or your image in your mind of how the world operates. You start to have clarity. And then the very cherry on top, because first you start with data, then knowledge, um, information, or no, it's data, information, knowledge, wisdom, finally discernment. That's what you end up getting. Discernment. It is the apex of experience. And discernment is you literally can see a situation, social or logistical, whatever, and you're the guy who can walk up, someone asks you about what's going on, and you can predict the future before anyone else can, and they don't even understand how you can know it, and it comes out to be true. So, how do you learn this superpower type thing? Well, you have to go on the hero's journey. You have to go out as a warrior, maybe literally or metaphorically. I joined the military. I actually went out and challenged myself to be a warrior. I went over in the Middle East and I learned a lot of things from that. It changed who I was, it forged me to be stronger and learn. I did martial arts, probably cumulatively 10 years. I did a lot of tournaments and fighting. I fought many men. I don't even know how many. I've I've been, choked out unconscious. I've choked out people. And the point isn't, I'm not trying to brag right here. What I'm trying to point out is a literal experience I can vouch for has helped me, and it can help you. Now, it doesn't have to be physical combat, but the point is, the harder the struggle that you can get yourself to take on, the harder the mission, let's say, that you're interested in, and does have a reward. There needs to be a reward for it. I mean, try to pair it with something that has some tangible, you know, value. But along the way, this is a handrail or a teaching tool. It is a way to guide you. Because if you just want to learn truth with no challenge, kind of like there's a lot of religious people, a lot of monks in monasteries and temples and other places. They really are at a disadvantage a lot of times because they are trying to learn truth and they can read it, but it's just a book knowledge. It's just an experience they gain from the experience of someone else. There's so many dogs around here. Well, anyway, these monks, right? There's other versions of it in life, right, that you know about. Everyone, talks about how you can have someone with street smarts and you can have somebody with book smarts or something like that. There's always someone in an office or a corporate environment whom has these magic ideas they think will work somehow. Whereas somebody who has worked in the field or just had any type of layman job can in an instant tell them it won't work. The same applies to higher knowledge of, let's just call it philosophy or metaphysics, something like that, right? Don't get tied up in all that stuff. Just call it truth, bigger picture truths. Too many people get hung up on if you use the word God or religion or whatever, right? Hey, we're all in this world, and this world is insane. Everything is normalized, but to me, nothing is normal. There's these magic things that come out of the ground. They use the sun to produce energy, and they rip up the soil and reconstruct it into an organic form that then is a source of food for all other things around, and they have miracle properties, some of them that can be turned into drugs, and people just say that's a weed. Right, look, this world is more than just probably, what government school systems tells you it is. It's extremely amazing, it's extremely beautiful. It's this world is divine. There's really no other words for it, and you can try and reduce it down to all of its simplest parts, or at least you think you can, until you actually truly start trying and you realize how intensely complex everything is. So to try and say there's no bigger truths, no bigger things to seek out, there's no bigger, goals or whatever, that it's not worth going on a hero's journey, I think is foolish. And I really think that for you, especially if you're a young person watching this video, you need to really consider what path you're going to step onto in life and what your intention is. Is it to have a comfortable life? Have a meaningful life? Or maybe a fully lived out potential life? I would personally I would say the best, it really has to be the meaningful one. If I had a second option, it might be the hedonist life, just because if you read enough philosophy and other ideas, sometimes you can slip into this nihilist position. And they may have second best argument, but it's the meaningful life, you know. If this life is short anyway and you waste it away on trying to learn about what is the nature of reality, what is truth, what is the most important things, and then you die, and at the end of it there's simply nothingness and void, well, it didn't matter anyway. So congratulations. Whether you tried to seek pleasure or what people call enlightenment, I guess. If there's nothing, there's nothing, and that's how it is. But on the off chance, you probably should focus on actually putting your attention on understanding the universe, seeking truth. The Bible says something like, do not store up your treasures on earth, but in heaven where they can't rot or perish. Now, I think that's a wise saying, irregardless of who says it or not. And I think that you should consider it yourself. So take on the challenges. Try to start your own journey, your own adventure, slaying a dragon, taking on something, and you will be better for it. Even it will be hard. You will have pain. That pain is ignorance and negative energies being worked out of you. But it's good. And it'll be good. So anyway, thanks guys. Have a good one. Bye.